Welcome back, you guys. I am glad that you have chosen to join us today. I'm also glad to have Bradley Pierce on the show with us again. He has been on here several times before. He's with an organization called Heritage Defense that I want to make sure that you know all about because as the culture continues to change, as the dynamics in our country continue to change, it's very important that as families that we are aware of what's going on and how we just want to be educated on how we can make sure that we are protecting our family, insulating legally to give us some peace of mind and stuff like that. So, Bradley, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and then tell us about Heritage Defense because I want to make sure right from the outset that we let people know who you guys are.
Yeah, well, thanks first for having me on. It's good to see you again. About myself, I'm a husband. My wife's Cindy, and we're blessed to have 11 children that we homeschool.
Hmm.
And both Cindy and myself are both homeschool graduates ourselves, so we're second generation homeschoolers. So we love, kind of all the things that our parents taught us, kind of taking it and applying those things ourselves, trying to improve on it, and hope that our children improve on it as well. And
Hmm.
we're grateful to do that. Most important thing about me is that I'm a Christian,
Hmm.
saved by the grace of God, and I'm the vice president and general counsel here at Heritage Defense. And Heritage Defense, we defend the parental rights of Christian homeschooling families. So any reason that a social worker may show up at your door, you can call Heritage Defense 24/7 as if you're a member, and we provide legal defense to families and to protecting their families, their children, and their parental rights.
That's fantastic. How Yeah, I'll just be honest. I live in South Carolina and things seem pretty easy here. Things seem like we're pretty insulated, although I keep hearing things that would make me think that we're not as insulated and protected as I would like to naively lean back and think. Do you feel like a lot of parents like me may feel a little comfortable in the current environment in which we live?
I think so. I mean, I think none of us want to think about somebody showing up at our house and
Mm.
accusing us of child abuse or neglect and wanting to come in and talk to our children and investigate our family and things like that. It is interesting you mentioned, being in South Carolina. The interesting thing is that this issue of child protective services overstepping their bounds and or investigating innocent families is not something that's exclusive to blue states
Right.
or Democrat or liberal
Mm.
states. In fact, a lot of times it's actually the opposite. Interestingly enough,
Wow.
and it's really an issue that, in fact, when you look at the people trying to like reform CPS and restrain them from their abuses, you're going to see people like conservatives, and then you're going to see actually far left liberals. So
Hmm.
it's kind of an interesting group of people who are for CPS reform, and whenever you see CPS reform legislation happening, it's normally bipartisan around the country. So
Wow.
this is not really one of those. Although there's lots of issues that are like that, this is not one of those that it's kind of Republican versus Democrats. Some of the worst states about CPS abuses are conservative states,
Hmm.
and because I think it comes from as conservatives, Republicans, we think, hey, law and order, go get those child abusers, throw them
Yeah.
under the jail, that kind of thing. And that's a good thought, but in the course of that, we oftentimes give too much power to these agencies that then abuse that power, as government is often does.
Hmm.
And so and then it's very hard to then pull that power back, because then it's like, oh well, if you tried to restrain that organization, well then if a child dies, well that's on you, that was your fault.
Hmm.
So it's very hard to bring that power back. So I mean, I can tell you in South Carolina we have a number of cases that go on there, that I know our local attorney there by name, and
Wow.
it's something that yeah, it's not just a Democrat state kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That is. I'm just glad that we covered that because I do feel like a lot of people in Tennessee, South Carolina, a lot of the states where we have
Right.
events feel very comfortable, and so the way that you just laid that out, I think is very helpful to know. I am. I'm very excited to announce that I'm about to be a grandmother for the first time. So my view of
And
all of this is really shifting. I pray a lot for my now married children who are getting ready to have their own children and making sure that they stay informed that I've always known their road is going to be harder than mine was, raising children biblically and so on. They're going to have to draw lines in the sand I probably never did. But you talk a lot about some laws that it's really, really important that all families know, that we understand them, that we have I guess, probably a plan of action regarding them. And I wanted to take some time today to have you walk through those because I think it's so important for us to hear that and to start kind of mulling over what we need to do about it.
yeah, well, I'll just talk about a few today, but I do want to let people know that you don't even have to be a member of Heritage Defense to get access to our law and policy vault on
Mm-hmm.
our website, where you can actually get access not only to these 8 laws that parents need to know for your specific state, but like about 2 dozen altogether, and we're adding more all the time. So,
Wow.
if people don't, if they want more details about what I'm saying here for their specific states, then they can go check that out and create a free account and get
Mm.
access to those. So, I just want to get
That's
that
a
out up front.
Yeah, that's a great resource. I'll make sure that we put that in the show notes so that you guys can go find that easily, because you're going to want to bookmark that one. That's going to be super helpful.
Yeah, well, one of the first laws that that I normally talk about when I say, all right, these are 8 laws every parent needs to know. One of them is the issue of vaccines.
Mm,
Parents have different, come to different conclusions about whether to vaccinate or not, or how many to do, or delayed schedule and things like that. And at Heritage Defense, we don't really have a position as an organization whether you should or should not, or do vaccines. But our position is that that's your decision to make. It's not the
yeah.
government's decision to make. That's your decision, and we're here to defend your right as parents to make that decision, without interference from the government or anybody else. So that is something that we think every homeschooling parent needs to know what those laws are. And a lot of people that have looked into this know that there's laws about uh, exemptions, right?
Mm,
Philosophical or personal or religious exemptions to vaccines, or medical exemptions if you or your child have had some kind of reaction to it.
mm,
Those exist, but in a lot of states, you don't even have to look into what the exemptions are because they don't even apply to homeschoolers in the first place.
mm.
There's a number of states where the vaccine mandates only apply to students who are in public school or private school, and those don't include homeschools. Now, there's a lot of
Okay.
states where they do, so it is something that parents need to, again, go to our website and find out, but you need to dig into, what's the law in my state? Does it apply to homeschoolers in the first place? And if it does, then how do I get that vaccine exemption if I'm going to do a delayed schedule or just
Hmm.
opt out altogether?
Yeah. I honestly did not even realize that outside of school there were ever like mandates on vaccines. They're pushed. I know, I knew that,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize that there are areas, and maybe mine as well, that where those are actually mandated, whether you're in school or not. That's fascinating to me. But I think that even more than that, understanding the laws, because some people that I have talked to are so nervous. What if we can't homeschool? What if the Lord changes our situation and the kids have to go to school for a while? How do you juggle if we've made this one decision and then they can't do? So I think that understanding the law on all of this will give a whole lot of peace of mind too, for just whatever God has in store for you as time goes on. You know that you're prepared and you are well versed in what you need to know regarding your children.
Right. Exactly.
So vaccinations are important. I know you actually do a whole session on vaccinations at Teach Them Diligently, I believe, which is generally quite popular as people are
Right.
just really, really interested in this. It's such a hot issue right now. Um, so I know that is a really big deal. I assume that there's more information on vaccinations and the law on that. Is that in the vault as well?
Yes, in fact, everything I'm talking about is in the vault. So I'm not going to be able to
Okay.
really give your listeners like, all right, here's what it is for your state. Otherwise,
Yeah. Oh, no,
we'd be
heavens.
here all day.
Right.
But I can tell them where to go get that info, and that is in the vault, in the law and
Okay.
policy vault. And again, you
Okay.
don't have to be a member of Heritage Defense. You can go to our website and get access to it for free.
Awesome. So, first law, we need to know about vaccinations, understand that. What's the second law that's really important for families to understand?
Yeah, the second one has to do with who may be making false or overblown allegations of child abuse and neglect. And that is who are mandatory reporters,
Mm,
and why is that important? Because in every state has a law about who is required by law to report suspicions of child abuse and neglect. And at
mm,
first, that sounds good. That yeah, people should be reporting. If there's abused children, the government should look into that. That sounds good. What's interesting is that we don't have laws like that for murder and pretty much any other crime committed
yeah,
against an adult. But people still report those things because it's the right thing to
it's the
do.
right,
They want
exactly.
they want there to be justice. They don't want this to keep happening to other people, so they report it. But the government's chosen we've chosen to create these mandates for child abuse
Mm,
that says to whoever is the mandatory reporter, if you're a mandatory reporter, then if you don't report any suspicion of child abuse or neglect, then you could lose your job, you
mm,
can go to jail, you can be sued, and a whole host of things bad that could happen to you if you don't report these suspicions of abuse or neglect. And so what ends up happening, the problem with that is that you get major over reporting, right? Especially,
okay.
the top sources of that are really school personnel, which homeschoolers normally aren't dealing with, but then the medical community. That's
Mm,
where most of this comes from. So we see hospitals that are putting in place, um, policies that tell doctors and nurses, hey, even if you don't have the suspicion of child abuse or neglect, even if you think everything's innocent, if a child has more than one recent injury,
yeah.
right, automatic report. If there's a certain kind of fracture, spiral or oblique fracture of a bone, automatic report. If a child under 2 years old has a suspected head injury, it's an automatic report. Like we had a case where a mom, she was walking at the park with her children, carrying their, I think, around 8-month old,
Mm,
and she slipped on the gravel and fell. Tried to cradle her baby, make sure he didn't get hurt. Fell to the ground. The baby starts crying. She doesn't see any marks, not doesn't think the baby's hurt, but just in case, she takes the baby, that goes to the hospital, gets the baby checked out. Does the baby have any kind of head injury? Hospital comes back, doctors say, nope, your baby's fine, no head injury at all. By the way, we're reporting you to CPS. And
wow.
so you're going to be investigated. It's like, well, wait a second, why? Well, we have a policy here that if a child under 2 has a suspected head injury, then we have to report that. It's like, yeah, but
Wow.
you did these tests and ruled that out. My child doesn't have a head injury. Yes, but there was a suspected head injury.
Mm,
And so that's how you get major overreporting, which is why a lot of people don't realize, but according to studies, over 37% of children in America will be part of a CPS investigation by the time they turn 18.
oh, my
Um,
stars.
so in just 1 year, even the Federal Department of Health and Human Services says that over 4% of children in the U.S. are part of a CPS investigation. And according to their own data, I know I'm throwing out numbers here, but over 90% of reports by their own data, 90% of reports to CPS are unfounded, and
Oh,
over
goodness.
83% of the investigations that they do are unfounded, meaning that more than 4 out of every 5 families being investigated and having to go through investigation,
Mm,
you know, have not abused their children. That's according to CPS. So that a lot of that comes from these mandatory reporting laws that incentivize major over reporting. And if you report, right, if you don't report, there's this giant stick. But if you do report, there's total immunity. And
huh,
so it's like, why
wow.
not just report everything? And so that's what we're
Exactly.
seeing.
Wow. As you were talking about that, I was thinking of the amount of fear that would come over a parent if you're told that you're going to be investigated by CPS. Like that is a nightmare. That would have to just absolutely set off a tremendous amount of fear. That my concern would often make you respond or do or say things kind of panic wise that could be problematic long term. Um, have you all seen that kind of a response happen? And how does actually understanding the law and knowing that you've got a an ally like Heritage Defense actually give you kind of the peace of mind to respond in a level manner, a composed manner, so that the whole ordeal can go much smoother?
Yeah, I mean, you've just described, you know, every situation that we deal with. We have families that call us and, hey, CPS is at my door, and very scary situation, and people are very, very nervous, and people are very defensive,
Mm-hmm.
and not at their best. And so that's why having an advocate is so important. And that's why we started Heritage Defense. And we're a nonprofit. We just want to be here for Christian families, giving them someone that they can call. Because we were handling cases before we launched Heritage Defense in 2010. We were handling cases before that, dealing with CPS situations. And some families would call us immediately, and most families wouldn't, though. Most families, especially homeschooling families, like I say, most homeschooling families are frugal, but every homeschooling family is a do-it-yourselfer.
That's
That's why
right.
they're right. I mean,
Independent. We are independent.
that's why we're homeschooling.
That's
And
right.
but the problem when it comes to legal representation, being a do-it-yourselfer, not
Yeah.
always the best idea. Even if even just the optics of it, right? It's much better to have an attorney saying no on your behalf
Mm-hmm.
than you doing it yourself. But let us be the bad guys. That's kind of what
Right.
we say.
Yeah.
So let us do that. And so yeah, knowing that, it does give our members' families a lot of peace of mind, and knowing these laws, helps them to make better decisions about their parental rights.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, having legal counsel like that removes the emotion from the engagement as well. It is matter of fact. It would be much more level-headed because if I'm talking about my babies, like you noted, I'm going to be defensive. I'm going to be a little scared. It's going to be much more emotional. And the older that I get, all three out of my four children have graduated. My baby's a senior in high school, so we've really kind of grown up. And the older that I get, the more that I understand how important it is to have a plan and to know and rest in that plan in every area of your life. And this
Mm,
is one of those areas. You don't want to have CPS show up at your door and you don't know if you have to open the door to them. You don't know all of these things and you just go into panic mode. So I just really want to take this moment to encourage you to look seriously at Heritage Defense because I want you to have a plan. God forbid, I hope that you never ever need their services ever, but you'll be so glad that you have it if you do, and you'll never regret having it if you don't. You'll just be grateful you never needed it, um, which you probably hear quite a bit as well, I would imagine.
all the time, and almost most cases we handle, the family says, "I never thought it would happen to
Yeah,
me,"
yeah.
and then there it is. And here's the other thing is, even if nothing ever happens to you, you can still call us anytime if you just have questions about what are the laws in my state about my
Mm,
parental rights, or maybe there's a situation that you're trying to navigate, with a disgruntled family member or something
mm,
like that. Somebody may be threatening to report you for something. Or we even have families call us, hey, I'm at the hospital and I'm having a disagreement with the doctor here, and we can kind of help counsel people and help navigate them, hopefully avoid it turning into a CPS case. And so that's
yeah.
all included with membership too.
That's fantastic. And again, just having a plan, knowing, have it on speed dial. You know what you're going to do if you're ever confronted with it. We hear all the time about how CPS is broken, the medical system is broken. All of these things are broken, and yet they are the reality all around us. So it's really
Right.
important for us as as believers and as parents to know what we're going to do if we're ever challenged on that. So I appreciate so much what you do. I get asked a lot, and I would imagine that you do too. And so I think this is a really great kind of next step in this conversation, a lot of people have heard of HSLDA, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and they are confused by what the differences and similarities are with heritage defense. So I'd like for you to address that a little bit because I think it's really important that people understand those differences so that they can understand the need there.
Definitely. Yeah, well, just at the outset, I'll say when I was homeschooled back in 1989 through 2000, my parents were members of HSLDA, and I'm a member of HSLDA, and I encourage every homeschooling family to be part of them. They do a great job of not just defending homeschooling, but advocating for homeschooling, lobbying for homeschooling, and then just have tons of great resources for homeschoolers as well. So I definitely encourage folks to join there. So the difference, and why we started our organization now 14 years ago was, okay, someone shows up at your door and it's, they're not there saying, hey, you're being truant, or hey,
Right.
you're not educating your children. They're showing up for some other reason. Well, that's where we come in, right?
Mm,
That's what we do for all of those other parental rights. Beyond your right to homeschool, all your other parental rights that need defending. That's what Heritage Defense does. But it's a similar model to HSLDA, that you become a member and then you call us, when you need us, and we're accessible 24/7. But yeah, we're here for any reason that a social worker shows up at your door, and not just to help. Not just call us there at the door 24/7. Hey, I have a CPS, we're at my door, and we handle it there. But even beyond that, even any meetings that need to take place, or if you need to go to court or appeals or whatever, that's all included with the membership. It's not any extra. And so the way that we work is we then hire attorneys in your state whenever we
mm,
have, you call us, you deal directly with one of our attorneys, but then most cases we need to get a local attorney involved.
yeah.
So we then
Yeah.
contact them, get you connected with them, and then we pay for them, pay their legal fees, and that's all included with the membership.
Wow. That's amazing. If if someone were to have a problem and find themselves in a situation where they need you, is it too late? So can they call you when a need arises? Is there a path that way, or is it just imperative that they already be a member? There's a waiting time. Tell us a little bit how that works,
Yeah.
because I'm sitting there thinking, oof, I need to know all the details here so that I can make an educated decision on this.
Right. You do need to be a member before something arises.
Okay.
And I mean, we certainly wish that people could call us anytime they had an issue, but there's no way financially
Yeah.
that we could
Yeah.
sustain that and be able to help all these families. And then no one would be getting any help. And
Exactly.
so we do have to say that, yeah, you have to be a member before a situation arises. We are able to help the occasional non-member family, but it's very rare. Um, you know, the focus and the commitment is to the member families.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it just makes sense. You have to be able to support the people who are doing the work to make sure that we are supporting these families and protecting these families. And so that's really why I wanted to get that out there. So often we are um, tempted to think, well, I'll just wait till I need it. I'll just wait till I need it. I'll just wait till I need it. But the reality of that is, if you need it, it very well may be too late for you. So I encourage you to go ahead and connect, get yourself a membership now, so that if God forbid you ever need it, it's already in place. So I know that you have, like I noted earlier on, and we're getting low on time, so I'm about to punt here on something. You have spoken on the 8 laws that every parent should know at Teach Them Diligently several times. For those who are 365 members, I'm going to link that audio so that they can hear the rest of those laws that are so important to know. But before we run out of time completely, I want to go back to talking a little bit about Heritage Defense. What is the process for families to join? And is the cost the same kind of across the board? Does it vary by state? How does that work?
Yeah, so the cost is the same across the board, across all 50 states. So people just go to our website, heritagedefense.org, submit an application there, and then within a few days you should get approved, or you'll hear back from us if we have some question or something like that. But it's $19 a month, or A lot of folks like to just do the once a year, which you get 2 months free by doing that, and
Mm,
it's $190 a year.
that's incredible. That is so reasonable. And I mean, my peace of mind is worth way more than that. And so I don't know how you guys keep it that low, but I'm sure that every family out there appreciates that you do. So I am going to link to the vault. I'm going to link to your membership page. I'm going to link to several other of your things as resources, as well as to a couple of your sessions for 365 members, because I want them to go deeper and to understand really what you're talking about here as much as possible. But because it's so good to hear it out loud, can you tell us where everyone can find you? And also, if you have YouTube or social media or anything like that, where there are other ways to kind of engage with you and just stay posted on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, so we do have a Facebook account, Twitter account, and people can go interact there. We're trying to, yeah, we regularly put up news about parental rights and
Mm,
CPS and things like that there that people can get info. The best way to interact with us is, you know, on our email list, which again, if you sign up for the Law and Policy Vault, then we'll start sending you a weekly email at most, and that is we're letting you know about new laws that we're adding to the Law and Policy Vault, and different tips on different issues and different member stories for families that we're helping, that your membership is helping to support us so we can help them, and things like that through our
mm.
email list is really the best way to get more info.
Well, that is awesome. Bradley, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's been really enlightening. I hope it's been helpful for everyone who's listened in and actually given them a lot to think about and talk to their spouse about and make a quick but informed decision on going on and connecting and joining with you guys.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been great to be with you.
Well, thank you very much. To the rest of you who are joining me today, I am serious. I hope that you will dive into the Policy Vault, look at the benefits of being a Heritage Defense member. You will never regret putting in that measure of protection so that you are prepared no matter what comes your way. You have a plan of action, you have a measured response, and you know that you've got somebody at your back. So check the links in the show notes. Go look at Heritage Defense and join them today. I really, really don't think that there is a better time than right now to get connected with them. So have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon.